Namaste. A greeting full of a sense of unity to all who are attending this meeting today. We are going to talk today about feminism, spirituality, and siblinghood. To begin, I would like to quote Tim Boyd, who once said that there are things in life that are so obvious, so clear and undeniable that it seems strange there should be any need for discussion. The need to empower female population, which is 1/2 of the planet's population, is such a subject. In this discussion today, I want to take the issue further and delve from the point of view of spirituality and universal brotherhood or universal siblinghood, a term I choose because I consider it more neutral in terms of gender. Did you know that in 2021, the World Bank estimated that it will take 135.6 years to eliminate gender inequalities in the world, while in 2020, the estimate was 99.5 years, as the COVID-19 pandemic has delayed the achievement of equality by another generation. Perhaps some of you know that around 700 million women and girls live in countries where there are no women in government positions, or even that 80% of the people displaced by the climate crisis are girls and women. Or did you know that on average, women have only 3/4 of the legal rights granted to men? Like this, there are a lot of data related to violence, work life, sexuality, etc., which I will not mention today, but that give an account of the situation. Then it is relevant to mention the above in an institution whose main objective is universal brotherhood and which has service as one of its 3 pillars. When we think of siblinghood, there should be a scenario of equality, equity, and solidarity among human beings, without distinction of race, creed, or sex. The key is a holistic approach from a spiritual conception. However, almost in general, when we speak of spirituality, we tend to establish a relationship with religion, since it is mostly through religion that people conceive their spirituality. What, for example, does the Christian religion tell us about feminism? According to the Bible, according to the Bible, God creates man, the king of creation, and he created him as per his own image. Seeing him alone from his own rib, he creates a woman. This creature is not only a product of a male body part, but is also foolish. She listens to the serpent, tastes the fruit of knowledge, and earns the expulsion from paradise. Thanks to Eve, thanks to her imprudence, mankind was condemned to misery. Abrahamic monotheistic religions such as Christianity, Islam, or Judaism are patriarchal. In them, God is a being with a masculine characteristic and is to be feared. In these religions, the feminine represents what leads man to his downfall. These religions use the doctrines to justify the subjugation of women. The notion of women as accomplices of the devil, Lucifer, predominates in Christian history and has served to legitimize their subordination. a reinterpretation of the figure of Lucifer, who, as HPB mentions, is the bearer of light, is necessary. And the Theosophical movement has contributed to that. In the 19th century, rebellious women performed counter readings of this misogynistic tradition. Lucifer was reconceptualized as a liberator, and Eve became a heroine who eats from the fruit of knowledge and leads humanity out of ignorance. The birth of the modern Theosophical movement played a key role in this. Most of feminist history has emerged from and alongside esoteric developments such as spiritualism, theosophy, and paganism. The rise of theosophy and the influence of HPB gave women alternatives for thinking about their place in the hierarchy. HPB herself, and later Annie Besant, were among the first women of their time to become leaders of a spiritual movement, something that even today in the 21st century is almost non-existent. The Theosophical Society insists on the spiritual independence of beings, of women, and includes them in all levels of the organization, defending the theological authority of a woman. Both Blavatsky and Besant were rebellious women in their time. They abandoned family life for independence. They rejected the domination of men. They became leaders of the ideal of political, social, and spiritual freedom. Until then, only Buddhism had given women the same position as men in the church hierarchy. But even modern Buddhism was marked by male domination, as traditional Asian society did not accept women living home, and therefore the bhikkhunis or female monks gradually disappeared. For centuries, men have controlled the Buddhist religion in practitioner countries. Actually, it is claimed that there is no feminist religious tradition. And even in Hinduism, which has a rich pantheon of female goddesses, there is no exception. It is not exempt from the patriarchal view. The reality of many women belonging to this religion is very different to that idealization. And the idealization of women as divinity is not reflected in dignified treatment and improved opportunities for them. In the dominant patriarchal vision that was introduced with the Code of Manu, the Dharma of women is established. According to it, during her childhood, a woman should depend on her father. During her youth, on her husband and her children. If she has no children, on her relatives who are close to her husband, and in their absence, on those of her father. A woman should never govern herself at her own wish. But as ironic as it may seem, global data indicate that 83.4% of the world's women identify themselves as religious, compared to 79.9% of men. Why will there be more female practitioners in religions that not only do not fully represent them, but also exclude and minimize them? Well, perhaps this has to do with the fact that within the being, the drive for the spiritual is greater. That search, that religare, that wish of religare, vibrates and is intuited as a liberating element. The sacred feminine is mentioned as a way of rescuing that other polarity of creation. We speak of Gaia, Mother Earth, as a living organism, and with this, we seek to vindicate the role of engendering that is inherent to the feminine, as well as to rescue the status of equality that all beings of creation have as equally important parts of the ecosystem. That is why, in many occasions, the feminist movement goes hand in hand with ecological movements that seek to leave aside the model of superiority that man has towards women and towards nature, and see him, the man, as one more element of nature and its balance. However, I believe that although the idea of the sacred feminine as that vindication and as a way of rescuing the value of femininity and empowerment has been fundamental towards the reaching of women's liberation and rights, it is limiting. Feminism, without a broad, spiritual, conciliatory vision of service and real concern for the human race as a whole, including men, of course, can very easily become the very thing it criticizes, the very thing it wants to deconstruct, can become an isolated, endogamous, limiting, discriminatory, and violent discourse. Then I advocate for a humanism, working from service and spiritual vision to rebuild and strengthen the sense of unity, in which each gender fulfills the dharma that is proper to it according to its innate natural characteristics. Let us remember that the spirit has no gender and that the true meaning of spirituality is that of universality. That humanity and all that exists is born from a principle such as the one mentioned in the sacred doctrine, an absolute principle, Parabrahman, that before manifesting itself has no gender distinction and whose manifestation is given only with the presence of the two polarities, the feminine and the masculine. But the masculine and the feminine principles play a vital role in the development of the cosmos and in the evolutionary process of the monad. But the universal divine principle is both sexless and formless. The sex distinction is but a temporary duality that will disappear in the millennia to come as humanity ascends. At an individual level, the higher self is neither male nor female and occupies the bodies of men and women by turns in countless lifetimes until it begins to manifest the higher qualities of both, culminating in the appearance of the spiritual androgyne or divine hermaphrodite, as HPB calls it in her Anthropogenesis in the Sacred Doctrine. To speak of feminism within the religious spiritual context has to do then with this holistic, universal, integrative vision and understanding of what underlies the universe. This applies not only to feminism, but to any cause that seeks equality and equity, and that should start from a spiritual vision. Even if at the level of manifestation, it is dedicated to a specific movement, such as feminism, in the case that concerns us today. So, to the question of what is the role of the spiritual life to the discussion on feminism and universal siblinghood, We can say that it is the one that starts from the liberation of all conditioning. Most of us are in the prison of our own creation of ideas, prejudices. We are slaves of tradition, of some kind of belief, of faith. It is not possible to reach that freedom through some figure, symbol, or idea. And in this sense, the mere affiliation to a religion, as we saw, can be contrary to the ideal of siblinghood. Freedom implies love. If there is no freedom, there is no love. And love is the force that makes us one. Krishnamurti will say, when you call yourself an Indian or a Muslim or a Christian or anything else, you are being violent because you are separating yourself from the rest of mankind. So, a person who is seeking to understand violence does not belong to any country, to any religion, etc., but is concerned with the total understanding of mankind. This comprehensive or total understanding of the human race is only given from a spiritual vision, a holistic one. If we go to pre-Christian tradition or the initial Buddhism or the Advaita Vedanta, we see a mysticism based on the unity of all, on non-duality. This vision transcends the ideologies and embraces every person indistinctly, becoming a reference of the true spirituality. As part of the Theosophical Society, it is our dharma to make inequity disappear. Let us make the ideal of service, of an universal siblinghood, a fact in every moment and start with our own circle. The best activism is that which is practiced in our own lives. Perhaps then we will become an example and change will begin to manifest itself. Educating our children in fraternity, non-comparison, and non-competition can lead to this. Educating boys from an early age in an egalitarian manner can be a revolutionary act in a society that pressures them to become the manifestation of the masculine that has been perpetuated for centuries. Perhaps it is worthwhile for us to reflect during our moment of meditation on questions like these, on our role according to our personal circumstances in the fading of difference, on what we can do from where we are and from what we are to end up walking in the direction of a true universal siblinghood. With that, many of the problems that afflict our society will diminish. To conclude, I want to leave the following as a point of reflection. First, by studying theosophy in depth and understanding karma, we can understand why we are born in a male or female body in a society like ours, and therefore fulfill in a righteous way the dharma that is proper to each gender. Secondly, why adepts born in a female body are not often mentioned? I hope one day to find and understand the answer. For the time being, from my position still full of immense limitations, I invite you to make a firm resolution to fulfill our dharma as human beings and students of theosophy, to make this a world with a higher vibration and to make universal siblinghood alive. Thank you very much.